Consider this. You by nature are not neutral or objective when you read the Bible. In fact, there are all sorts of things subconsciously influencing your readings every time you open up the pages of Scripture. This is what we call pre-understanding. And if you want to be a good Bible interpreter, you need to get to a place where you identify your own pre-understanding of the biblical text. Pre-understanding refers to all of our preconceived notions and ideas that have already been formed before we even take time to study the text. These are formed both consciously and subconsciously. This includes specific experiences and past encounters that make us assume we already know what the text means. Pre-understanding is formed by good influences and bad influences, some accurate and some inaccurate. It includes everything you've ever learned in Sunday school, sermons, Bible studies, and even in your own private readings of the Bible. Pre-understanding is formed by the hymns and the songs you sing in church. It's formed by pop songs. It's formed by jokes, art, non-biblical literature, both Christian and secular. I want you to reflect on pre-understanding for a moment, and specifically 4 aspects of pre-understanding that could be impacting the way you are reading the Bible. The first is this: theological agendas. This is when we go into a text with a theological agenda. We're looking for a specific slant in the text, and we only take into account the details that confirm our preconceived theological agenda, and we skip over and ignore anything that might point to something that is contrary to that. The second thing is this: familiarity. When you're familiar with the text, it's easy to think that you already know everything you need to know about it, and so all of a sudden you just skip over it. You don't take time to dig into it deeper, and so that's something you need to be aware of. The third thing is cultural baggage. We have no idea how deeply we have actually been influenced by our culture, and there are a lot of ideas that we have really bought into subconsciously in our culture that influence the way we read the text. Sometimes you read something and there's a little voice in the back of your head that is objecting to something that you've read in Scripture because it doesn't seem to line up with the norms or the values in our culture or in our day. Like, consider the command that Jesus gives us to, turn the other cheek. I think that if we're being honest, like as North Americans, that probably rubs us the wrong way when we read that. Well, that's a perfect example of how we have cultural baggage, that our culture is influencing the way we're reading the text. Last but not least, a fourth aspect of pre-understanding you need to be aware of is family background. The fact of the matter is, some of the biggest ideas that you have about life have been given to you from your family. The way that you think about work, the way you think about the poor and the unemployed. It probably has to do with the socioeconomic setting that you were raised in. Like, if you were raised in an upper to middle class setting, you're probably going to approach biblical text about the poor from a different vantage point, say from somebody who was raised in the poverty of New Delhi, India. And so you need to be aware of the way that your family background, your family of origin may be influencing the way you're reading the text. Ultimately, our goal, if we want to be good Bible interpreters, is to submit our pre-understanding to the text, placing it under the text rather than over the text. We want to identify our pre-understanding and then be open to changing it so that it can be in accordance with a true, serious study of the text. So my question for you is, how has your pre-understanding been influencing the way you've been reading the Bible? Be open to identifying your own forms of pre-understanding and be willing to change it in accordance to a serious study of the Bible. That's all we got today. Thanks for tuning in.